All right, welcome to another great episode of The Real Deal. Let's get it. All right, happy Saturday. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Real Deal. It is 2023. Happy New Year. Once again, though, we're all still celebrating, trying to get in this new year, try to get everything straight and ready. I know New Year's resolutions, New Year's goals, and things like that, but I can't believe it is 2023. But I'm glad everyone, whoever's tuning in, thank you for everyone that is tuning in. New Year. And we're just doing the podcast, and we're trying to just get this podcast, continue to get this podcast with a great guest and great conversations and things like that. So again, welcome to another episode 111 of The Real Deal. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Thank you to everyone that's tuning in on Facebook, on Twitter, we're everywhere. Spotify, Google Play, Anchor, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, the BS3 TV, Roku app. So download that. That's when you get all of our shows. You get all the shows and the content from the BS3 network as well. BS3TVLive.com, BS3 TV app on Roku as well. Like I said, we got shows for just about any and everything: sports, TV, movie reviews, comedy, a little bit of their travel, cooking. I mean, we got the network is huge. So shout out to Ben Sutterth and the entire BS3 network. So again, BS3TVLive.com, BS3T Network, BS3TVNetwork.com as well. I think that's where you get everything at. I think I said all of it. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, but you can follow me on Twitter at Courtney110979. You can also follow me on Twitter, the show on Twitter at Get the Real Deal as well. Courtney Harden, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. If you Google that, you can get all the shows, like I said, on all podcast platforms. And hit me up on social media as well. If you want to be a guest, I'm always looking for great guests each and every week. I have shows just about every other day, once or twice a week, mostly main ones on Saturdays. So thank you to Facebook user already, Morning from Arizona. Thank you for tuning in from Arizona. Really appreciate that as well. Yes, we have to get into the comments on Facebook and YouTube and Spreaker as well. So without further ado, I had to do this show right. This is the first show of the new year on Saturday, the Saturday show. So I had to get one of my good friends. She's not even a guest anymore. She's like one of the staples of the show. She's been on the show. I think we were just talking at least. I've been on her show a lot of times. She's been on my show. We thinking maybe 15, 20 times, from Instagram lives to the regular shows to her show. She's Boston Ballin's own Boston Ballin', as I like to say, the Boston Ballin' podcast, which has been 2 years. We're going to talk about that as well. I had to get her on the show, Mrs. GABBY HURLBUT. What is going on, GABBY? How are you doing?
I'm doing well today, Courtney. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on. Like I said, it's probably this is like our 15th or 20th show we've done together. We've done so many good shows, and it was only right to start the new year out right with you on the show. So how are you doing? Happy New Year to you and your family and friends. And how's everything going so far in 2023?
Yeah, happy 2023 to you as well. I can't believe it's actually 2023 now. It always felt like it was so far into the future when I was talking about that
Yes.
year. So it's kind of weird that we're there now. But 2022 definitely flew by. So we'll see what's in store for 2023. But yeah, things are definitely off to a good start. So far, just continuing to grind the daily routine. So hopefully it continues in a positive direction, because 2022 was definitely a good year.
Yeah, 2022 was a good year. It was a good year. I saw you did your recap and the memories and things like that you've done on your Facebook page and Twitter page, things like that. So you did a lot of events. You had a great show and everything too. So again, Boston Ballin podcast. If you guys are not tuned in, if you guys are not liking the show, or you guys are missing out, Gabby has so many great guests. I've been a part of a few times, about 2 or 3 times, maybe more, on the show. And you don't just talk about Boston sports; you talk about a lot of different things too. You talk about all types of sports, even beyond Boston. So let everyone know about Boston Ballin, and congratulations again on 2 years of the podcast as well. Like I said, please subscribe, please like, please share, and all those things. But let everyone know about Boston Ballin.
Yeah, thank you so much. I launched Boston Balling in December of 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. And I definitely, when I started it, did not have a whole lot of expectations. Wasn't really sure if people would like it, if people would tune in, but the amount of growth that I've seen in the last couple of years is really, really surprising in the best way possible. I've developed a really good following on the show, a lot of listeners that tune in on a week to week basis. So I really appreciate everybody who's supported it over the last couple of years. Like you mentioned, I bring on different guests on the show where we talk about what's going on in a lot of different sports, primarily Boston sports, and then also talking about other things going on around other things in sports. So basically bringing in a lot of different people each week to help me talk about that. And it's been anywhere from, athletes to reporters to other podcast hosts or content creators to people who cover different teams regularly. So it's been a wide range of guests that I've had for sure, but it's definitely been super fun to be able to just talk about the sports and the teams that I love on a regular basis.
Yes, and I know when you started it back in 2020, and we told this story before. You were on my show in 20, might have been 2019, 2020, somewhere by 2020. And you said your first time on a podcast, and I just at that time you were working for ESPN. Anybody don't know Gabby's history? She's worked for ESPN and done a lot of variety of things, and you just wanted to start a podcast afterwards, and kind of just reached out, and I said, you just need just to get like a something that you're passionate about, which you're passionate about Boston sports, all Boston sports, sports in general. And then also you were passionate about just to be conversating with others and getting guests and things like that. And I said, that's all you need. And that's it. You got a passion for something you love to do. And you could, like I said, you could start it just on your cell phone and press record and just start talking. And once you get that engagement and you got that following, and now look at Boston Ball in 2 years, is amazing. Again, congratulations on 2 years of Boston Ball. I have always enjoyed the show, and I'm always supporting the show and getting in the comments. And anytime you need me as a guest, I'm always there for you. So I'm just glad to be just a small part of that journey with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that it's been 2 years.
Right.
It really did fly by in that time, but I definitely appreciate you being one of my biggest supporters of the show and definitely being there for me to give me that advice, especially when I was first starting up and wasn't really sure what I was doing. But yeah, I mean, who knows where I'd be if I would even have a show if it hadn't been for you asking me to be a guest on your show that first time. So it's definitely come a long way in that period.
Yes, and you said you're doing all the legwork. I mean, you had it. You had the passion, you had the drive to do it, and you did it. And now we're 2 years in, and you, like I said, you've had tremendous guests. Like some of the guests you've had, I was like, wow, she's getting like these great guests. They like I said, from writers to broadcasters to content creators and athletes, and you've had a litany of guests. So just I know it's probably hard to how many guests you've had in 2 years, but tell some of the guests that you've actually had on the show.
Yeah, it's been a lot. Definitely a good variety of people. One of my favorites was Tom Caron, who is the Red Sox, covers the Red Sox for Nesson. And so he's been with them forever, for a long time. So he definitely brought a lot of knowledge about the team and what was going on at that time. With him, I've had quite a few kind of like former athletes on the show. Tyrone Poole, who used to play for the Patriots, was a really fun guest to had. Stephen Wright, who used to pitch for the Red Sox, was on too. That was another episode where he was really definitely into the content and what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So a lot of really passionate guests. I've had quite a few other podcast hosts on the show as well, people who have their own show, including you, Courtney, and
Yeah.
a variety of other people who I've collaborated with have been on their show. They came on my show. And so it's always good to I'm constantly on Twitter kind of seeing who's content people are following and people are engaging with, because that kind of helps me make the decisions on different guests that I bring on the show as well, because if people like their content, then chances are they'll tune in if I bring them on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly keeping up with that when it comes to reaching out to people. And it's also been cool because people have started coming to me with advice on how to start a podcast or advice
Yeah.
on how to go about reaching out to different guests that you might want to have on the show. So it's really, really cool to be able to, pay that forward and be able to help other people based on the experiences that I've had since I started.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, when people do come up to you and they're watching or they're following your podcast and other things you do too, like you said, you go to the games, live games, things like that too. And they're like, wait, I've seen the show. I've seen her before on Twitter, or I listened to the show and everything too. And that is amazing when you get the listeners that are watching. And we really said we both appreciate the listeners and the ones that are following and shouting us out or just in the comments or anything like that. So we definitely appreciate that. So yeah, like you said, the Boston Ballin podcast, everyone check it out. It's on all podcast platforms. If you type in Boston Ballin on Google, it'll come right up. And yeah, like I said, the litany of guests and the content is great. So continued success with the podcast as well. So let's move on to some of these topics I wanted to get into. We're gonna get into some of the latest in sports. We still have the NFL. The NFL had a tough week this week. We'll start here. National news, and I had a guest on yesterday, Jen Adams. She was saying international news. Like, yeah, it's going international where DeMar Hamlin for the Buffalo Bills, safety of Buffalo Bills, collapsed on the field and had stopped breathing. They had to administer CPR. Scary situation, scary incident. And they administered CPR, rushed him to the hospital. And that was on Monday night against the Bills and the Bengals game on Monday night. And this is just a story that if you haven't seen it. And now that, they had to administer CPR twice, and now he's in recovery now, and they've removed the tube from his throat where he had to get his his breath, his lungs, and blood flow in the brain and everything too. It was a scary situation, very sad. There's been so much prayers and thoughts and things like that. So we're still praying for him, and he's talking now, which is a miracle. So God was at work, just doing what God does, his work. But the support and the outpouring community, not just from the NFL, from everywhere, and just for this young man to recover. So, but what's your thoughts with the DeMar Hamlin, the recovery? What's your thoughts of what happened this entire week?
Yeah, like you said, it was obviously a really emotional week
Mhm.
for the sports community. I think initially seeing that live was just something that's there's not really words for.
Yeah,
Super incredibly scary, unlike anything I've ever seen before during a live game.
yeah,
I think, what it really came down to for me was how heartwarming it was, the number of people that came together
mhm,
throughout the week to really pray for him and really rally him to recover, because I really firmly believe that he knew that everybody was sending their prayers to him, and it helped give him strength to be able to recover. I
yeah,
think it really, really, I couldn't really think about anything else football related, because my primary focus was, on him and whether he was going to be okay. And
yeah,
so I think this is really something like this is when people really, really get reminded that this is just about so much more than sports.
yeah,
And just being able to see the news yesterday that he was awake and he was talking and he was on FaceTime with the team was just so much of a relief, because I can't imagine, being his teammates or being his family or his friends and having to see that. And I know one of the first questions that he asked when he woke up was who won the football game that
Yeah.
night. And I think it just based on what I've learned about him over this past week, he seems like a really selfless person who puts other people before himself, and I
Mhm.
think that's a really admirable trait. And the fact that his main concern was his teammates just speaks volumes on his character. So
Yeah.
I think, the news that we're hearing now, obviously there's going to be more to his recovery, but I think the fact that he's made so many strides
Mhm.
is just such a relief for all of us. And I think it's really, you know, it's a really, really positive sign what we're hearing now. And just really, really want to give credit to that medical staff who
Yes.
has been with him this past week, because it really is a miracle. And I think, it's just, I think it's gonna be tough to really look at the game the same way and, you know, not be concerned that something like this is gonna happen again. It's just a really, really hard situation, but I'm really, really grateful for all the support he's been getting.
Yeah, and the football community coming together. And as you said, a lot of good points you said about the human side of it, because like we're not even thinking sports. This was bigger than sports. This was, like you said, a human life, a human being's life, on the on the brink, on the bounds of almost almost dying, and on the field. And um yes, the medical staff, I mean the utmost, the quick response from the first responder, medical staff, the athletic trainers. They get a lot of credit, and then the doctors afterwards, the nurse and doctors, or he went to the back when he went to the hospital, to be able to administer so quickly, to get a heartbeat back and to get him breathing, to do CPR for almost 10 minutes, which is like you said, you've never seen that before on a football field. And it was very heartbreaking and just scary watching that. And talk about, gives you chills when you talk about it. And in a football game, it was on a hit with T Higgins. And the way, I mean, the Buffalo Bill, the both teams, the way that the reaction, you knew this was something different. This wasn't a torn ACL or a concussion. Even though concussions are scary too, but it wasn't a broken arm, wasn't anything, that type of injury. This was like they knew once the ambulance came on the field, it's like, okay, this is something, just a reaction, and them just huddling and praying and being together for them. And then they finally called the game. I mean, we'll get into all that, the NFL logistics of it all. But they said this was a guy's life that was in the balance. And now for that to happen till now, the road to recovery is just amazing work throughout the week. And it was a heavy week for everybody. Anybody that, not just that knows sports, but people that this was national news. It's on CNN, it's on ABC and Good Morning America and Today Show. It's on those platforms as well, TMZ. So yeah, it was very scary, but I'm glad. Like I said, he seems like, just watching it, the people talking about him, like I said, a very selfless guy and a very noble human being. And now his toy drive goes from what,
Yeah,
$2,000.
that was amazing.
So I think the last I saw was almost 8 million, $7-8 million now that they've raised over the last, just this past week. Is amazing. So that's just his humanitarian work outside of that, outside of football, is what he likes to just help others and be that way. So yeah, so our prayers are just still with him, with his family, and the doctors and everybody else. Like saying, big shout out to the first responders and the athletic trainers for the quick responses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, throughout the week, the news kept getting better and
Mhm.
better each day. There
Yep.
was a more positive update. And that's definitely, I think, what helps people get through, was just knowing that he was actually making those strides and showing, signs of recovery each day with us just getting more and more positive news every day. So that's definitely what we could have hoped for.
Yeah.
And I hope that the rest of his recovery is smooth, because it definitely was a really scary situation to have to witness. And even immediately afterwards, people were sharing the video on Twitter, and I kept saying, like,
Don't
please don't
watch that.
share that.
Yeah.
I
No.
can't see it again.
No.
And it was just when people were sharing photos of, the Bills team on the field all
Mhm.
together, those were better to see and people to share, but people that were sharing the video, I just couldn't watch it again.
No, and yeah, I couldn't watch it either with you. It's like, why are we sharing this video? And we're this, like I said, this guy's life was in the balance of, he was basically, like, he was the heartbeat. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't show that either. That's just, I don't know why people do that, but it's there's no need to really do that. I know when the media was covering it, they were kind of showing the hit and showing like clips and pictures of it. I could see that, but others just showing it just to show it is very sickening and everything too. But like I said, there was a lot of positive news coming out each and every day. Where we continue to pray for them. But what do you think of this? As we're part of the media, what do you think of how the media handled it from ESPN? Basically, I mean, that's a hard thing. So this is like breaking news right on the field. And how do you think they handled it in the after show and even afterwards of people really responding and talking about it? How do you think the media's handled it those first couple of days?
Yeah, I honestly give a lot of credit to them, especially immediately after the fact, right
Mhm.
after it happened, and they were forced to just cut to, them in the studio. And I think it's very, very difficult to be able to kind of carry yourself through that and be able to
Mhm.
still even do a show. And I think, the way that they were able to carry themselves and talk about the situation was very, very professional. And obviously with the Monday Night Football crew, nobody really knew exactly what was happening. At first, we weren't sure exactly initially after the fact what, had initially happened to him.
Mhm.
And so I think the way that they were able to keep their composure as best as they could, and be able to just do what they could to, um, you know, cover the situation was, I thought, very, very impressive. I think, some media members on social media might not have handled it correctly
Yeah.
in the best way. And there was definitely a little bit of insensitivity going on
Mhm.
in certain things I saw on Twitter from members of the media. But I think that show, right when they cut to the studio, I think I think that crew showed a lot of, professionalism. And I think even in the coming days after that, what I saw in some of the shows, First Take, and they were talking about the situation, obviously it's really hard to formulate those thoughts when we don't know, yet what condition he's in or what the updates were.
Yeah.
I think they tried to do the best that they could to be able to cover the situation. So in those cases, I have a lot of respect for the people who, had to cover that live on those national networks. But I do think some of them on social media did not act as appropriately.
Yeah, I agree. And we can say Skip Bayless, he was one of them. And the tweet that he put out, some people think it's gotten blown out of proportion. No, it did not. He was very insensitive, even though he said that he didn't mean it in that way, but he was. And even going on, his show with Shannon Sharp even said himself he couldn't even go on the show right after because of that tweet. He said it was an insensitive tweet that he said, but he came on after and Skip's still. I mean, I know people want him off the air and his comment and everything too. He has said over his years of covering media and there's a lot of insensitive and things that just for shock value, but this was not one of those. Shouldn't have been one of those type of times. You don't have nothing to say positively or just prayers or anything like that. He should have said nothing. I know he's got to cover it, but he's been in the business a long time. So, but you're right. I think as an overall with the media, I think they covered it as best as possible as they could. He says as difficult as it was. I love that Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark, the conversation they had.
They were
I thought
fantastic.
they were fantastic. Yes, they were very fantastic. I love the monologue they had, and Ryan Clark talking about situations where he was in, where how they looked at this, said this is beyond football. This is our brother. This is our our teammate. This this is this is real life now. It's not just a football situation. This is a real life situation now. So I like that. I did like Joe Buck was trying to do his best to kind of keep it moving, keep it going, because it's live action. He's got to, and Troy Aikman, they got to really they have to really know, like, okay, this is how we have to handle the situation. Lisa Salters was amazing. She was on the field and she got to witness, she was firsthand witness on the field what was going on, and they got choked up. Booker McFarland, and there was a lot of media members, and even afterwards, like you said, I think First Take, Get Up did an excellent job. I love that Mina Kimes and Dominique Foxworth. That, if you haven't got a chance to listen to that was a good, because they talked about it and they talked about player safety as well. What's your thoughts on that too? Now with this situation, now player safety now is going to be a big topic. It's always in NFL with concussions and how they handle it, how they've been handling things. What you think? What's your thoughts on now? How they move forward with now player safety and health and player safety?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really tough because there's only so much they can do before they alter the game or start to alter the game. Yeah. I do think we see some changes. How they go about that, I think it's going to be a long process to really implement some of those changes. I think there's been too many situations that we've seen with football where players are, having these things happen, and it's really, really, really detrimental and really scary. Yeah. I think, you see things happen in other sports, injuries or what have you, but I just feel like with football, there's so many things that can happen that you wouldn't really see in other sports. And I think we do see some changes, but it's going to take a while for them to really figure out how they can go about implementing those changes. I think there does need to be something. And, I think they're going to look at this situation and they're going to be like, well, what can we do to try to prevent something from like that from happening again? But I don't see the changes actually being implemented for a while, because they're going to have to really come up with a structured plan that doesn't deter the game too much from, what the actual standard game is.
Yeah, that's going to be tough because, I think the NFL, they're trying their best, like with the helmets, and because, you got Tua Tagovailoa, who suffered a couple of concussions this year, and that's scary in itself. Yeah. And I know, medical staff and they're the NFL, they're trying their best, but I think they gotta continue to each and every year think of ways to protect. I know they're protecting, with the quarterbacks, with the, the personal foul hits and everything. That's a whole nother discussion on that and for that quarterback. But I know that they said they're trying their best. Maybe the turf, that could be try to get fixed. That could be another situation, another way to do it. I know healthcare beyond 5 years after the NFL, after a player retires, as I think they 5 years and then they're on their own. They should be getting healthcare benefits probably for life. That's what they should do. That's probably the main thing they need to do with retired players to get healthcare benefits because these players, what they go through, their bodies and things like that, and their minds, and goes through, head traumas and all that. So yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not a doctor either, so I don't know what they can do, but I just think that they need to make it an importance, more of an importance, and every year, not to alter the game. I agree with you on that, because if you alter the game too much, then it becomes flag football or it becomes non-physical contact. We don't want that. We don't want two-hand touch football or flag football. We still want football the way it is, but it's got to become more, try to make it more safer than they have. So we'll see what they do moving forward. But again, yeah, um, I wanted to get your take on that with some of those things. So, but now we do have football. It's week 18. I think now the Buffalo Bills, I think they were gonna go on a run, but now they're gonna use this as motivation that their teammate and their guy is. I know as you as a New England Patriot fan don't want to hear that at all, but it seems like this is really gonna push them up, even though they are still playing for number one seed and everything too. But they did call the game. They canceled the game of the Bengals and Bills. That was another thing that we were looking to see. Okay, how are they going to move forward with this? And like I said, I think that was insensitive that some media members were talking about that. And I know they had to, but let's wait a day or two before we get into what's going on, what the NFL is going to do. I mean, the NFL is thinking about that, but they're hopefully DeMar Hamlin recovers. That's their main thing. But what do you think now of this? Maybe on a neutral site, they had to do some moving parts with certain teams now, and the AFC Championship game can be on a neutral site if it comes down to Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals. What was your take on how the NFL handled the scheduling now for the playoffs and possibilities of Cincinnati and Buffalo and the teams that are involved?
Yeah, I honestly would not have wanted to be in their
That
position
job, no.
of having to be in that meeting, trying to
No.
figure out what they were really going to do with this. I mean, I was even like, well, what happens, like if they decide that they're not going to resume this game, there's so many scenarios in play here. What happens with, the playoff spots? Do they add a playoff spot? Because a lot of people are talking about, do they just add another playoff spot? Because if we don't play week 18, then what happens with the other teams that are on the bubble that need certain teams to lose in order to get in? And there were just so many scenarios that I was playing through in my head. And I was like, well, you can't just really give somebody a playoff spot by default because they're in it right now. And by them, I mean mainly the Patriots, because they are technically in a playoff spot right now. But if week 18 game wasn't played, then you're looking at what does that mean for like the Dolphins and Steelers, who technically could still get in. So I was like, this is, like there's so many scenarios here.
Yeah.
I think the neutral site thing obviously is definitely different and definitely new and something that people are going to have to adapt to. But I think that they're doing the best they can to make it fair for everybody. And I don't know of a solution that would have made it more fair, to be quite honest, in that situation. I think, that's really all that they could do. And, obviously with the Super Bowl usually being at a neutral site anyway, and the teams being the teams in the Super Bowl, you very rarely get to play at home unless you're Tampa Bay and you win the Super Bowl at home.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, yes.
But like in general, teams don't usually get to play the Super Bowl at home. So maybe that becomes something that going forward they consider doing, in the championship games are just on a neutral site. I mean, we kind of, the whole home field advantage thing gets taken away in a way. But I also don't think there's a better way they could have done it. I think they're doing the best they can to work with the situation that they have. And I think that, if that's what it ends up coming down to, and then I think that that's fair and that's the best way to do it. And it still allows, all those teams to be in the playoffs that deserve to be in it, but it's not necessarily, kind of screwing anybody over in a way by being like, oh yeah, we're going to give this team home field because they're in that spot right now. Yeah. So I really don't feel like there's a better way that it could have been done.
Yeah, I think this is the best scenario they could have came up with. You said there was so many scenarios that they was running through, and I was like, I'm thinking, okay, how are they going to do this? Because it's one less game for the Bills and the Bengals, and then it goes by percentage points, and then okay, Cincinnati now they win the division kind of by default in a way, because even though they were ahead, but Baltimore's involved too, and if they get a chance to play in the wild card, whoever plays at home, they're doing a coin flip. It's like, so yeah, that's a crazy situation. But they they always had contingency plans in place for these type of things, these type of situations. Because I know even with the pandemic, they had to move games, and this happened at the this is at the end of the season, so they didn't really have, like you said, they didn't really have a lot of wiggle room to do much. If it was in the middle of the season, they could have moved games around, had them play on maybe on a Tuesday or something. They did that during the when the pandemic started. They did that during the season. We had like 3-4 games on a Tuesday. So we were watching football almost every single day 2 years ago. So it was like you said, I wouldn't want to be in that room. I wouldn't want to try to hash that out at all. So the Chiefs they could get the number one seed if they win today. We got football today, so they automatically get number one seed if they do win. But they said Buffalo, I'm just reading some of the scenario. If Buffalo, Kansas City both lose and Baltimore wins or ties, the Bills and Chiefs championship game would be at a neutral site if they make it. Buffalo and Kansas City, if they both lose and Cincinnati wins, a Bills Bengals versus Chiefs championship game would be at a neutral site also. And so it's crazy. I'm not gonna remember any of this. All I know is that who gets number one and where they're ranked, and then we'll go from there when the playoffs go. Because because the Bills and Patriots, they play tomorrow, and they could play possibly again the next week. And so it's because if Buffalo gets number 2 and New England's number 7, so and then they talked about another scenario I think you brought up. They said adding a team or pushing the playoffs back a week, and so that Super Bowl week, they get that week off.
That's what I thought they were going to do. Originally, that's what I thought they might do.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do that too. But logistically, it would have been tough, but they've done that before. They have done that before, where they had the Super Week and the preparation and of all that. So yeah, it was crazy. Like I said, it would have been interesting to be in that room and hashing that out. But I'm glad I wasn't Roger Goodell or the NFL staff committee, any of those things. So it was crazy. So, but we do have football. I know there was talks about how are they going to respond, with all this if DeMar Hamlin, him not recovering, like I know how teams were going to respond on the field. Like they got to come back and play, which is. It's hard to do. I know that they're wired that way, but it would have been tough for any teams to come back and play after seeing that situation. But now the Patriots do play the Bills and everything too. What do you think? What's your expectation for this game? I mean, the Bills are going to be so motivated and everything too. But what's your expectation for the Patriots? The Patriots playing Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely my thoughts on the game are a little bit different than they were last week. I think, the Patriots, the first time they played this season, the Patriots defense did a really, really good job of stopping the Bills. I think that's kind of been a storyline for the Patriots this whole season. They've had a really good defense who has kind of kept the team in games and allowed the opponents to, not be able to score a lot. So I think that's going to be really important in this game too. I think if the defense steps up too, they can make it a competitive game. The Patriots offense has been all over the place this year and pretty much a mess. I think the Bills are going to come out very, very motivated. They have, something that's a lot more personal to play for than just a Super Bowl championship. And so I think that's going to be brought out on the field. I don't see the Patriots winning the game. I don't see it being a blowout though, because I do think the Patriots defense especially is going to be able to hold them. Josh Allen did struggle with the Patriots defense when they played the first time. So I think it's going to be a relatively closer game. I do have Buffalo winning though. So, I'm just hoping that the Jets can pull off a win against the Dolphins as well. Because I need that, because if the Patriots lose, but the Dolphins and Steelers also lose, then the Patriots get in. But it's all that needs to go perfectly. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's not like Buffalo is going to be resting anybody either. So it's definitely going to be a tough game, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be really tough. The Bills, I mean, they've been great. They've been good all year, and now with DeMar Hamlin, and they're thinking about thoughts with him, and now they're going to be playing with that chip on their shoulder and going into the playoffs. I mean, they're going to rally heading into the playoffs. Even, they were going to, I think they were going to go on a run anyway. Now they're really going to have, they really going to have that extra chip and extra motivation heading into the playoffs, number 1 or number 2 seed, wherever they land. They're gonna be a tough out, the Bills anyway. So I think, but yeah, and like I said, there's so many scenarios now with the Patriots. They got to get in the way. They have to get in. They have to basically win and and see what happens from there. But there's so many other scenarios. Like this week 18, the last week of the NFL season is always craziness because they think of my Philadelphia Eagles was riding high in number 1 seed and just flying through the season, and now they're on the verge. They could be on the verge of losing the number 1 seed and the best record period
in their division.
In the division. So, because if they lose tomorrow against the Giants are resting a lot of their starts. They're already locked into the 6th seed,
which they should be doing.
Yeah,
it's not like they can move up.
Yeah, they can't do any. Yeah, they can't do any moving, move up or down. So they're locked in. So they're resting. They just came out to the rest of their starters, which we knew. But we have this lingering thing with Jalen Hurts, who's been hurt the last 2 games, hasn't played the last 2 games of injury, shoulder. He's questionable going into this game. I don't know how healthy he is. I know he's gone through practice, and they say he's looking better and better, but they got to keep him protected. The Eagles are banged up. They've been healthy most of the season until now, towards the end of the season. Now they're getting that, they're just injured. They're getting so many injuries now to key players. They're getting some guys back. But they need this bye. They've been riding on it. They need this win. They need this bye. So I'm hoping that they can get this win. I want Jalen Hurts to play. I do, but if he's not healthy, then you can't risk it. No,
because it's way more important that he's healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah. And Gardner Minshew has had a his game, the way he's played the last 2 games has been up and down. He played decent against Dallas. I mean, they scored 34 points, but he had 2 turnovers. They had a lot of turnovers. And then last game, they couldn't move the ball. So against the Saints. So he's been up and down. I don't really have a lot of trust in him, but I think he can still get it together and get it going if he has to play against the Giants, but they have to win. I think they need the number 1. I know some fans are saying, they don't need number 1 seed. I think they do need the number 1 seed and that bye so they could get healthy and then come back. Because if they lose, if San Francisco wins, they're the number 1 seed. If Eagles and San Francisco lose and Dallas win, they're the number 1 seed. So yeah, it's so much. There's so many moving parts, and when it comes to this, but we love the chaos of Week 18.
Yeah, it's going to be such a fun week. There's a lot of games to watch, to look out for, especially in terms of playoff seedings and who's even going to get in. So that's what makes Week 18 so fun. Just all the chaos that comes with it, and just so many important games. I think this Week 18 in particular is obviously a unique one in quite a few ways, but there's definitely going to be a lot of fun games, and the AFC, especially with that last spot there and who's going to end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC. So there's definitely a lot to look out for. The NFC, there's some good teams. I mean, San Fran's looking really good right now. I actually have them as my pick to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. I think Brock Purdy's been really, really good. Stepping in for Jimmy Garoppolo. So I really like them. I think that they're looking really good right now. But again, that's what makes football so fun. On any given day, any team could come out and win a game. So it should be a lot of fun this weekend to see how these games play out, and then also heading into the postseason.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, Week 18. And then we got the last game of the season, Packers, Detroit at Green Bay. Who would have thought both of these teams, the way they started and how they're finishing, they could be the last spot. I mean, Detroit would know their fate by the time heading into this game. But if they got a chance, they're going to definitely try to play. Green Bay just has to win. Now, they have to win to get in. And I would not count Aaron Rodgers out at all. And like I said, when they were 4-8, everybody counted them out. And now they're 8-8. They've won games. They've won close games and things like that. And they got a chance to – I think they're more dangerous if they get in Green Bay when they're not a number 1 seed, because the last 2 years they've been the number 1 seed and gotten bounced out at home. So now they'll get into the last seed. They're a dangerous team now that Aaron Rodgers has now belief in his receivers and the way he's playing. And I mean, he's not playing lights out. He's not playing MVP type Aaron Rodgers, but they're
No.
doing enough with the run game, the defense. But he's still a dangerous player. They're a dangerous team if they get in. So that's the primetime game. So a lot of these games are still a lot at stake when it comes to these games. And I know you said
Jaguars Titans is another one to look out for this weekend too, because
That's
the
for the
winner of that
division.
game with the division. So I mean, the Jaguars too, they've definitely been another surprising team this year.
Yes.
Also a fun team to watch. So that's going to be a good game as well.
That's a good game, yeah. Because like I said, that decides the division. And if you get a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence in his second year, get to the playoffs, and I mean, big shout out to Doug Peterson for turning that team around. I mean, I know Doug Peterson first and foremost, firsthand, leading us to our our only Super Bowl.
He's a great coach.
Yes, and he's helped turn that team around and really playing. So I really like what they're doing too. And I thought maybe next year they were gonna be as good as they are, but yeah, Jacksonville, they've come out and really improved too. So looking forward to that. So just got a couple more. I wanted to got to talk about your Red Sox and getting Rafael Devers and signing that big long-term contract. I know, listening to your shows and talking with you, I know you were disappointed with the Red Sox their off-season, not doing much, losing out on a lot of things, and rival teams like the Yankees paying big money to free agents and things like that. But now Red Sox 11 years, $331 million contract extension, signing the third baseman. What do you think of them, Rafael Devers staying with Boston?
Yeah, I'm super psyched. I literally screamed at my phone when I got the notification. That's the biggest contract in Red Sox history, and it was a much needed contract. I think fans were starting to get to the point where they didn't feel like the Red Sox really wanted to spend a lot of money, which was definitely a frustrating feeling because, they're a big market team, so they should be able to spend the money, which we know that they have. And somebody of his talent level, he's still young. He hasn't really hit his prime yet. So I think they needed to spend big on him. And I think we knew based on how a lot of these other contracts were playing out and what players were getting. I think the market's just changed. Players are demanding more now and their agents are getting them more. And I think the Red Sox knew that. And I think they knew that if they couldn't keep up with the market, that he wasn't going to stay. So I think, that was a much needed move. I think, obviously with his talent level, he's a really special player and he is now the heart and soul of the team. He's your franchise player. Now they can focus on building a team around him. And I think, that extension suddenly made the Red Sox vision more clear in terms of what they're trying to do with this team. I think people can start to feel a little bit more confident in what they're trying to do and that they actually do have a direction, because we were unsure what the direction is really at first with this offseason. But I think now, they have some young prospects in the system who are supposed to be really good that they're hoping to have come up. I think they're trying to just build a contending team around Devers. And I think that was a huge move for them. I think it got people really excited and kind of starting to get people back on board maybe with what they're doing. I do think they need to make a couple more moves this offseason to really round out the roster. There are a couple big holes I think they need to fill, but I do think they will. I think that Devers was their top priority this offseason, and they made it happen. I mean, everybody was really disappointed about the Bogarts situation, but I don't think they really wanted him as much as they maybe made it out to seem like they did. I think they have, they have a better solution that they feel at shortstop, and they hopefully will address that and show that they do. But I think this was huge for the team and a huge, confidence booster among the fan base.
Yes, just looking at and reading, is you're right that I think they had to have confidence in the front office for the Red Sox fans, as you said, didn't have any confidence because they've lost. You lose Bogarts. I mean, even Mookie Betts from a couple of years ago. You're thinking, okay, like what's going on? Why are we not re-signing our own players? And why are we not, where is this going and what direction are you going to go? But now I think it was important for them to sign Devers because it would have been a distraction if you didn't do it. would have been a stretch of heading into this season. And so you're thinking, okay, are they going to sign him to a long-term deal or not going to sign him? So I think it was very important to get it done. Yes, it's a lot of money. 11 years, 331 million. But the baseball players they're just getting $300 million deals now and
Yep.
long-term deals. So I think it was only right for the Red Sox to do it. It fits their plan of now they I guess they didn't want to spend them. They don't always want to spend the money, kind of like what the Yankees do or the Dodgers do. Padres are doing now.
Yeah,
Uh,
Padres have some hefty
did
contracts there.
hefty contracts. I mean, and everything too. So, and you talked about now they can build this team around Devers, and they said there are still some spots I read maybe catcher is a spot that they need to improve on, and always pitching. That's always another couple pitchers, but everybody needs pitching. Almost every team always
Pitching is
needs.
so important.
Yeah, especially in the postseason, we just seen that every single year, and if you don't have good pitching and relief pitching, if you don't have good pitching, you can't win. And the Phillies when they went in the World Series, they had the bats, but they were neutralized by good Houston Astros good pitching.
Yep.
And it happens every year. And then the Astros neutralized the Yankees again with pitching. The Yankees didn't have the greatest pitching, maybe up top, but they've addressed that. They're like, we need pitching. We got the offense. We need pitching. When our bats are not hot, you need pitching. And that's like every single year that we see these World Series and in the postseason.
Yeah, it's true. Houston has a phenomenal pitching staff. That's what allows them to maintain that consistent success that we've seen them maintain. Obviously, winning the World Series this year was huge for them. Ultimately, they just had the best pitching, and that's what helped them, win it all. So if you're a team that's trying to improve in the off season, pitching is always a good area to look.
Yes, it definitely is an area to look. So, what you're pitching, what we see right now, I'm just reading the combination. Hopefully, a healthy Chris Sale that'll go a long way in consistency from Pavetta, Garrett Whitlock, Tanner Houck. You got Kluber now. I saw that was in the rotation, and in the bullpen they said probably needs to be improved too. So, and in the American League East, always tough. Yankees, Tampa Bay, and Toronto, and then even a young Baltimore team. So this division is going to be quite interesting again. And the AL East is going to be quite interesting moving forward.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's still, I do worry about the pitching rotation. I think there's still too many question marks as of right now with the injury history of some of these pitchers. But that's why I think that they need to go out and find another starter or two before the season starts. But yeah, it's a tough division. Every team in that division is good. It was the best division in baseball last year, and I expect the same this year. I think it's going to be a really competitive division and fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to see how this baseball season turns out, which be starting next month. Spring training is in a month. It's like February, March, and then pitchers and pitchers that come to first, and then here come the hitters, and then we're like, oh yeah, here come baseball. Here we go, spring training's here. So
all of a sudden,
yeah, always. So last one I want to talk about, we got to talk about your Celtics and their great start, what they've done so far this season. I know you're excited about how they've started so far. Right now, Celtics are still in first. They're 27-12 as of today, hanging on the first place. Brooklyn's on their heels, and the Bucks are still in it too. So, what's your overall take on the Celtics season? We're a third now. Yeah, third of the season.
Yeah, they've definitely had a phenomenal start. I was a little worried about how the season was going to play out. I think I actually remember coming on your show before the season started and talking about just everything that came up in the off season with, the coaching scenario and just, getting Gallinari, but then him getting injured and being out for the whole season. Yeah. Rob Williams is now back, which is good, but we knew he was going to miss a lot of the first half of the season. So I think there was definitely some question marks with this team going into the season. I think they had a phenomenal start. Tatum and Brown are playing like, the best duo in the NBA right now. Their numbers that they're putting up together as a combo are pretty phenomenal right now. I think, that's what we were eventually waiting for with those two once they both really were finding their stride. I think Jalen's a perfect number two to, support Tatum. I think they've been struggling as of lately though. They've had their offense, which was really, really good to start the season, has fallen off a little bit, maybe come a little bit down to earth, as people would like to say. I think they're beating good teams, but they're losing to bad teams. It's the teams that you don't expect them to lose to, like the Thunder. They had like their worst game they've had in a long time
They allowed 150 points
against OKC, so that was not great. They lost 2 games in a row to the Magic at home. So that's not ideal. Obviously the Magic are a young team. There's a lot of talent there, but I think they're still kind of getting there. So those are teams that they should be beating, and they're not able to beat those teams, but then they go and beat up on the Nuggets. They need to find some consistency there. I like where they're at. I still think that they're, one of, if not the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. I think, I still like their chances of going back to the finals. I give Joe Mazzulla a lot of credit, obviously stepping into the role of coaching the team in unprecedented circumstances, and it being his, first year as a head coach. He's pretty young himself still. So I give him a lot of credit for what he's done so far with this team. I think, there's definitely some holes that they're going to have to think about addressing at the trade deadline. But I think some of these people that they've acquired, like I think Malcolm Brogdon's been a great bench piece. Yes. I think Grant Williams is really coming along off the bench. And I think Rob Williams being back is tough because it was around when they were struggling. I don't think that they really know how to utilize him properly. And I think if they can figure that out, they're going to be tough for other teams to compete with. I think Marcus Smart is having a much better season this year and really developing into that true point guard role. But I do still like where they're at. I think, there needs to be some consistency. They need to not sleep on some of these teams that they just think that they can beat. But I think overall, like, the Eastern Conference is obviously really tough, but I think that they're still right there. I think they still, based on how they're playing, have a really good chance to go back to the finals.
I do too. I think they really got a good chance to get back to the finals. I think the experience that they had playing in the finals and getting that experience really has helped them, because it definitely helped Tatum. We knew, as we talked a lot about how Tatum could take that next step. He was developing into becoming a superstar, and even at the beginning of this season, the way he was playing MVP basketball, I think he's still the favorite for the MVP. And there's others coming around, Luka Doncic and Jokic and others, and Giannis, that are playing very well. But Tatum has been at least for the first third of the season, has been the MVP. I know it's still early, there's a lot of game left, but the way he's played, the way Jaylen Brown's played, even with all the, like I said, off season of turmoil with the coach, and then maybe getting Kevin Durant and Jaylen Brown being traded, possibly getting traded, and he said Gallinari going down, getting him going down, where they was going to fit Brogdon and Robert Williams. I mean, there was a lot going on. Rob Williams and his injury, there was a lot going on with the Celtics, but they righted the ship, and they said they still got the best record in the East. They're still one of the top teams in the East, and they said you broke down all with everything that's with the team, within the team, and how they're playing and things like that. So the Celtics are still, they're going to be a huge issue going into the the playoffs. And like I said, if they could just continue to keep playing well, playing defense, because they were playing some solid defense, and offensively they were just shooting it at such a high extreme clip. If they could just continue to keep that consistency, they're going to be tough. Now, I did pick the Bucks to come out because I still feel like a healthy Bucks team and a healthy Celtics team was going to be really good. But now you got Brooklyn, who finally decide, oh, we are good. Let's play.
Let's show people
how good we are with the talent that we do have. So you got them, and the Sixers, same thing. Oh, let's show how good we really can be. We can stay healthy and together. Yeah, Cleveland. So yeah, there's a lot of good teams in the East, and then especially that top five, top six teams. But Celtics will be fine. They're they said they've ridden with the best record in the entire league in the East, definitely, and they're still right there at number one.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been so far a fun season for them. I mean, that Jalen and Jason combo, I was like, you
Mhm.
can't split those two up. I mean, they're both
No,
so young still, and
yeah,
them finally figuring out how to work together on the court, I think is beneficial for everybody. I think, their style of play is different and their personalities are very different, but I think as long as they could find a way to make it work on the court, which it seems like they're doing, I think it's going to be a huge problem for everybody else moving forward. They
yeah.
just need to, they need to just continue to play good basketball. What we saw against the Nuggets, I think, is the team that we're used to seeing this year. They looked more like themselves when they played that game the other night. That was a really, really solid win against a good team. So if they can maintain that, that's the team that's really tough to beat.
Yeah, they are. They're going to be really tough to beat, and yeah, I think the Celtics will. They'll more than likely, make it to at least the conference finals if they stay healthy and, like I said, implement Robert Wiz back into the fold. But they got all the pieces. They got all the pieces to make another run to the finals, which I would not be surprised if they get back to the finals at all. So yeah,
I hope
yeah, so,
so.
yeah. No, for you, yes, for your sake, I hope so too. So. Well, Gabby, this has been a tremendous time once again. We did, like I said, conversation for another hour. And we've done again. We got another one here. And so, again, I can't thank you enough for coming back on the show. Really appreciate it. And let everyone know they can, again, follow you, follow Boston Balling and what you got coming up in the next couple of weeks on Boston Balling.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me on. It's definitely always a good time with you. So you can find me on all social media platforms. My Facebook is Gabby Elizabeth. I am on Twitter at Gabby Hurlbut 10, at Instagram at Gabby underscore Hurlbut 10. And then Boston Balling also has its own accounts at Boston Balling on Twitter, at Boston underscore balling underscore podcast on Instagram. And there's a Boston Balling Facebook page. I drop episodes live to Facebook every week. So if you like the Boston Balling Facebook page, you can catch the episodes there. There's also a YouTube channel. You can subscribe there or on any other podcast platform where you listen to your podcast. You can find the show there as well. To subscribe. Should be a lot of fun coming up. I have some Red Sox Rafael Devers reaction talk coming up on the next episode. A huge Boston sports news. Right now, I have Patriots talk in line to see what happens with them if they make the playoffs. We're going to be doing some talk about that as well, and there's going to be a wide range of guests moving forward as well. I have a good guest list lined up for the next few weeks as well, so
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to that as well. It should be a fun 2023 for the podcast.
Yes, looking forward to the 2023 Boston Ballin podcast. Looking forward to that. See what I'm always watching and listening and seeing who you have on the show and looking, like I said, looking forward to the to continue success with the podcast and everything you got going on as well. So again, I can't thank you enough, Gabby, and enjoy the games. And we have some football. And again, we're saying our prayers for Damar Hamlin still for the recovery. And we're so glad that we get good news, positive news each and every day, and of improvement of his health to him and his family. So we are definitely praying for the recovery for him as well. Again, thank you, Gabby. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I hope you enjoy all the games this weekend. Definitely a good sports weekend.
Yeah.
So really appreciate it again.
Yeah, thank you. And again, you can follow the shows on, like I said, like Gabby said, you can follow the show everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Google Play. Subscribe, all those things, and BS3 TV network and Roku channel. I really appreciate it, and I will be talking to you, I'm sure, very, very soon. So, thank you, everyone, and everyone enjoy the rest of your evening and rest of the weekend.